You found a place to belong here in the Circle of Friends. I'm Missy, and I am with Joanne and Carol today. And ladies, you have a guest.
We do, and we're so excited. It's always fun to have a newcomer around the table and a new topic for us. So we're excited today. Carol, what do you think?
I'm just so glad that Jason Miller can be with us today. And Jason's been a good friend for a long time, and of you too, Joanne. And we're just so glad to have him here today to join in the conversation with us around the table.
This week we're going to be talking a lot about heaven. Heaven looks different when someone that you dearly love has departed and gone there. There's just a different curiosity about what's heaven like. I remember when my father died, I just wanted to buy anything I could find about heaven. I was reading books, I was searching scripture. I wanted to know, where did my dad go. And I think when you understand what heaven is, you realize that the person who has left here is there and you're going there too, and it makes it a temporary separation. And it brings such peace when you understand that the goodbye that you said here is not forever. It's more of like, I'll see you later. And it just brings such peace when you understand that. And knowing that you are ready to go there too is so important. I just saw a sign that said, if everyone living could talk to everyone who has departed, everyone would be saved. Because if those who have gone ahead of us could tell us where they're at and what they see and what they're experiencing, we would all make the right choice because it would be so clear. And so I am just looking forward to this today. Jason recently had an experience where his father passed away and some conversation was taking place. And it makes heaven, like I said, it just makes it real because you can see and hear some of the things that are happening. Carol, do you have any loved ones that have passed on, close people that you understand what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. I remember when my father-in-law passed away, just having that sense that not only do I have a loved one who's close to me, someone who loves me like so much there in heaven that's cheering for me, but it made me want to live my life in such a way here now, not to waste any time. It just, you realize how I realized how precious time is and how we need to make the most of the time that we have here in trusting God for the things that we're going through now, and that one day all those things will be gone. The tears will be wiped away. And so it's an exciting thing to think about, that someone that you love and is close to you has gone before and is in that great cloud of witnesses, and that we have opportunity now, here now, to trust God for the way that we're living, for the life that we have.
Yeah. I love that great cloud of witnesses. I often think of that because I always think when someone passes away and they enter through those gates, who is there to greet them?
Yeah.
And I've thought so much about some of the people from our early church, that were such a part of our lives for so many years that passed away years ago. People I had kind of forgotten about, and I'm thinking, man, they're very much alive. They are
Absolutely.
there. They were there to greet my father when he came. He was their pastor.
And you're right, Joanne. There's so much comfort in that. I have a son and a granddaughter in heaven, but my in-laws are there, and I often picture the moment they stepped into heaven. There was Grandma ready to meet him. She didn't meet them here on earth, but they're spending eternity together. I can't wait to get to the party.
Well, and the word eternity, that is such a big word because for us, we can't comprehend what eternity is. Eternity has always existed. But the day that you got saved, your eternity began. I mean, your life with God, with Jesus began, and it's for an eternity. And that is, I mean, how do you describe that? How do you wrap your mind around an eternity? But we know it's going to be great. It's going to be a good time, and I kind of looking forward to going myself.
Well, and it's so interesting that you say that, Joanne, because one of the things I've also heard, and I think that's true, eternity does start now.
Yes.
Like when
Yes.
we have that relationship with God, then eternity isn't like something we're waiting for.
Right.
It's like our eternal self starts now, and our body will die, but our spirit is eternal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we can get that, it's the body that dies, and it's their presence, it's the presence of that person here on earth that we miss. But it's not that the person, it's themselves is gone. I mean,
Exactly.
is dead. They're still alive.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know, guys, I just want to say, I apologize, Jason, you've got 3 women here yakking their heads off, and we haven't even had a chance to get you to say hello. Hello, Jason. I'm happy to meet you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me in today. It's really just an honor to come in and to be able to talk about a topic that
Has new meaning
physical,
for you, doesn't it?
has tremendously new meaning for me. And we had, we just had a great experience with my dad and what he experienced in his transition. And Joanne, that's what you talked about. And for me, that's what heaven became such a real
It's a real place.
to
Yes.
me, and to recognize and be next to him during his transition, and then the gift that God had given us of what he was able to share. It was just an eye-opening experience and kind of a perspective-changing experience.
You know, it's interesting. People talk about the thin veil that, you know, really we live on earth and we deal with the physical. And it's sad to say that we like totally absolutely overlook the spiritual, which is around us and active every single minute of every single day. And that's sad to me. And I confess that I can be that way, that I'm dealing with the realities of life and the physical material things that I see. But it's almost as if you can reach your hand through that thin veil, and eternity is truly just that close.
It
The
is.
spiritual
Oh, I
world,
think
the
of that.
spiritual realm is just that
Yes.
close.
I think of those things all the time because I'm constantly thinking about what angels are in the room right now. You know, what spiritual things are happening around me. What is heaven saying about our recording today?
Yeah.
You know, then you think about, like, if they could interject, what would they tell us that we need? You know, what would they like for us to know? I just think it's such an exciting topic, and there's just so much promise in heaven. There's just so much, we've always known heaven is real. We've always known that there is a heaven. I mean, that's one of the things we're living for. But, I mean, the reality of it, we just can't quite get it.
Yeah, we get caught up in the day-to-day and everything that's coming at us in a day, and like this radio program for me of where, thought process and all that, and this is a great thing, great opportunity to talk, but it captivates my thoughts. And then the great thing about this is then we're actually focusing on heaven and on eternity, and so it gives that, reminds even in a task-oriented mindset of, hey, I have to come in and we're going to talk and it's going to be great and we're going to have fun. But then there's also that eternal perspective in it as well.
You know, this reminds me of a verse when we were talking about one day, it's going to become clear. It says, the Bible says that now we see things imperfectly, like puzzling reflections in a mirror, but then we will see everything with perfect clarity. All that I know now is partial and incomplete, but then I will know everything completely, just as God knows me completely. And so that's what you're talking about, that veil, and that we do. We see what's in front of us because we see so much with our physical eyes, and that's that's part of our life. Like, we have a job to do, and we've got people to be with, and so I think about that sometimes, that there's so much more, that there's a depth that we have to, I think, be purposefully aware.
Yes.
Because it's so easy not to.
Yes, and that intentionality. It reminds me of one of my favorite verses in 2 Corinthians 4:17 and 18. It says, "For this light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." And we're living in the temporary as if it was the eternal. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have it switched around, and we have to remind ourselves intentionally that we're pilgrims. This is a temporary journey, and our home is heaven, and
The
that's
promised land.
The promised land, and that's where we're headed. All of us, every single one of us. So, with that mindset, I think that changes a lot about the life
does.
you live here.
Well, and I think it also changes the way you look at things around you, because everything that you have worked hard to earn is all going to be gone. I mean, when you think about it, it's like we take such pride in the house that we have. We build a new home and we love the new home, and we work hard for nice furniture, a nice car, vacations, or whatever. But those are all things that are here for us to enjoy, but we can't gear our life. I mean, that can't be our life. And it makes those things really just things, you know, and it's like you get to the point where you look at things differently because they are temporary. They are just something that you're going to use while you're here. And let's face it, even while you're here, it's going to get old. You know, it's not always going to be new. And so it just brings a different perspective to the things that you own or the things that you're striving to get, because they are just things. They are temporary. They are not part of my future. I'm not taking them with me. And in the future, when I see clearly, they will be worth nothing.
Yeah, that reminder is so important because if we get caught up in the material, in the things, then I think Satan does kind of win that battle with us. Because he's prevented us from doing the things that really matter for eternity. You know, people matter for eternity, not things. And we can get caught up in it being all about us and our life. And you know what I'm saying? So if we start looking inward like that, we're missing it. We really need to be looking outward and loving people. And that's what matters. That's what's going to matter in eternity.
Right. And I think, again, you know, when we start, just as you said, loving people, and we realize that people are all going somewhere.
Yes.
They're all going somewhere.
Exactly.
And the day will come that every one of us will be on a deathbed. Every one of us is going to face eternity. And no one is exempt from that. One thing in life that is sure is death. You know, and so, you know, to just know that your home is secure and you know where you're going, it makes my heart break for the people who don't know where they're going, or don't seem to think that it's real, or somehow think they're going to avoid, or I'm not sure what they're thinking. But it breaks my heart for those people, because eternity will come. Their eternity, that death will happen and a door will open. And, you know, we either walk into a promised land, or we walk into things we don't want to know. I mean, just, you know, I mean, it's such a clear option. It's everybody's choice.
Yeah.
It's a free choice. So it is just so important that we look at other people right, and that we love people. The Bible tells us that love never fails. And so we are not to be out condemning and criticizing people. We're supposed to be loving on people so that they can see the love of God, that they want what we have. So this is going to be a fun week. We're going to need to take a break right now, but we're going to be back here with our special guest, Jason, and we're going to be talking about heaven all week. So we'll be back in just a few minutes here in the Circle of Friends.
Village Gift Barn in Berlin, Ohio carries one-of-a-kind finds, just as unique as you. Our elegant shop has everything you need to dress up your home and your wardrobe. We're dedicated to offering new, exciting merchandise. As you explore our 3 amazing floors, that's over 20,000 square feet, you'll discover everything from home decor and furnishings to a beautifully diverse women's boutique. Are your walls blank? Is your furniture blah? Do you never have anything to wear? We've got you covered. Stop by and let our friendly, knowledgeable team help you create a look that's all your own. Village Gift Barn is located in the heart of Amish country at 4755 State Route 39 in Berlin, Ohio.
Every day they pass me by, I can see it in their eyes. Empty people filled with care, headed who knows where. On they go through private pain, living fear to fear. Laughter hides their silent cries, only Jesus hears. People need the Lord, called to take his life to a world where wrong seems right. What could be too great a cost for sharing life with one who's lost? Through his love, our hearts can feel all the grief they bear. They must hear the words of life only we can share. People need the love. People need the love. At the end of broken dreams, he's the open door. People need the love. People need the love. When will we realize that we must give our lives? People need the love. Oh, people need the love. Come to us, Jesus. People need your love. Come to us, Jesus. People need the love.
We're back here in the Circle of Friends. You're with Missy and Joanne and Carol and our guest Jason today. And this week, Joanne, you mentioned before the break, we're going to be talking about heaven. And I'm excited about it because I think this is a subject that we sort of overlook or maybe take for granted, or
It just seems so far off.
it does seem far off, and maybe we don't pay quite enough attention to that until it becomes personal for us, where
Right.
we lose someone close to us, or we think about those who have gone before. And you mentioned that earlier, Joanne, that when someone that is close to you passes away, goes into heaven, lives in heaven now, you think more about heaven. Heaven becomes more real to you. It's not as far off as it once was.
Right. Yes. All of a sudden you care
Yeah.
about what's going on in heaven.
Yeah, yeah. Your curiosity, your everything is kind of heightened with that. So, I mean, I'm excited to learn more about heaven. I just think that's there. It's in some ways it's such a mystery, and other ways there are things that we know. You know, we know it's God's home. We know it's an awesome place.
We know the pavement is made of gold.
I mean, we just know it is going to be far beyond our imagination, and so it's always fun for me to talk about heaven and what might be there. So,
Well, I was just looking at some scriptures here. These are some things that we've heard that we're familiar with. In Isaiah 11, it says that the cow will feed with the bear, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like an ox. And when you think about wildlife, and you think that wildlife is going to be in heaven, you know, sometimes people wonder, is my pet going to be in heaven? Well, I think there's maybe a chance. It says the infant will play near the cobra's den, and the young child will put its hand into the viper's nest. I mean, these are things that, you know, we have heard. We're familiar with some of these scriptures and some of these things about what certain things that are happening in heaven or what it will be like. But that is something that here on this earth you can't even, I mean, that would never happen. But there's all kinds of verses throughout the Bible that give us a glimpse of heaven. In Isaiah 65, we see where it says, "See, I will create new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind." And that just reminds us again of that all the things that are so important to us now, you know, they're become our life. They're all going to be very unimportant. They're not even going to come to our mind. We're not going to go to heaven and say, "Oh, I miss my house." We're not going to go to heaven and say, "Oh, I love that new car I had." I mean, those things are going to be so trivial and so nothing.
yeah.
Everything will change. Perspective will completely change as to what's important and what's exciting.
You know, that reminds me of Colossians 3, where it says, since then you've been raised with Christ, set your heart on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. And the reason is because that's our end goal. That's the end
and
game.
don't you think that if that's where our minds and our eyes were, we would be more likely to invest money into missions?
Oh, absolutely.
And to do things with our money that helps spread the word and get more people exposed to the gospel.
Well, to me, it's about focus and intention. When, we set our hearts on things above, we set our minds on things above, then everything we do
Yes.
is really about that end goal.
Yes.
And that the journey, it keeps our awareness of what we're doing today, the job that I'm doing today, because we have to go to work,
Yes.
has eternal purposes in that we can make a difference where we are. We can make a difference with our people that we work with. We can make a difference in, we do earn that money so we can live, but also so we can give. And everything is set toward that end goal. It's keeping ourselves aware. And that's where I think those distractions come in to get us thinking about things here instead of things there. And then that kind of just, we can spend our money on things that, I think it's, it's good. We have money. We should enjoy
Yes,
it,
absolutely.
and we need to live, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying those things, but it's it's when those things become more important than those eternal things.
Yes. And I think, too, one of the things that I have enjoyed just working with employees and working with the people around that I'm with every day is allowing them to see that I trust God for things. We had an incident at work not long ago where one of our employees was involved in a terrible accident. And of the 4 people that were in the accident, 2 of them died. One of them is still not well. Our employee walked away. But I had also just prayed for protection of our employees, along with another church member. And, and so them seeing that, that we prayed, I then told them, after this accident, I said, earlier this week, we prayed for protection of our employees. And we did that based on a lady from my church coming in saying that God has told me we need to pray for your business. And so in being obedient, they saw the power of God at work. And so we have that opportunity around us every day to be a witness to the people that are in our lives, that we deal with every day. They see how we live our lives. They see how we can trust God. They see if we panic about things that are trivial or overreact. And so when we have the opportunity to be a witness to those around us, it affects their future too. It makes a difference.
That's a good point, Joanne. I was talking to someone recently who had no grid for scripture, no grid for even the Bible story. So I gave him this quick Genesis to Revelation overview and kind of a 5-minute thing. So it was very, very fast and high level, but somewhat, and I know for me sometimes if I'm talking to someone who doesn't know Christ, doesn't know the story, maybe tend to not talk about the power and the presence and God's involvement in our life because you don't want to freak them out. But I started talking about God's presence and His power and the Holy Spirit and all of that He's given us. And his response was, "Oh, well, that makes me feel better." Because to recognize, even though he didn't have a grid, it was, well, if you're going to talk to me about God, there should be some power, some presence, some involvement in what we're doing now.
It shouldn't be just a God that's sitting in heaven waiting for us, a God that's involved in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
not
nice.
he's not an observer.
Right.
He
Yes.
is an intricate part. He created us, and so he cares so much about who we are, what we're doing. That is very comforting.
It is. And he knows our potential. I mean, think about this. So many times we have, kind of a low opinion of what we're capable of or, where we're going to end up doing, whatever. But God knows our potential. And he has put in us great and mighty things.
That's the piece, too, where you were talking about in Isaiah you read and the lion eating grass and nature basically conforming to his presence because in his presence in heaven. And that's the piece that as we're here on earth, if we acknowledge and invite God's presence in, and then as our lives conform, as we recognize his presence more and be aware of some of those eternal things while we're here.
And when I think about the power of God, when someone who is a very corrupt or evil person gets saved and you see the change in them, you see the power of God at work. Changing hearts, changing lives.
It's interesting. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie I Can Only Imagine. Have you seen that? It's Mercy Me,'s lead singer,
I've heard. I want
Bart
to.
Millard. Oh my goodness, it was so good. And really, I mean, he wrote the song I Can Only Imagine. And have you heard that song? And
Yes.
It's about when you first see Jesus, when you're face to face, what are you going to do? And to me, it's such a powerful, beautiful song. But the song came out of his life as a young man. His father was abusive, and he himself has described his father as a monster. And the fact that at the end of his life that God could change, he saw his father was redeemed and changed and transformed, and suddenly he had the father that he'd always longed for, a man he could look up to, a man he could aspire to be like.
A changed man.
A changed man. The power of God and the power of that transformation really is where that song came out of. And when you hear that, it's even more powerful when you understand the story behind it, because God is just that awesome. There is no one who is too far out of reach for God to take and I mean, he did it for me. And Paul says, I'm chief of all sinners, He did it for Paul, who was, saying, yeah, let's stone him some more. Let's, put those people in prison. I mean, he chased Christians down. Yes. That's the kind of man Paul was. I mean, we tend to think that was Saul. We tend to think of Paul as just, Paul, he was the great apostle. But God did something in him that was so powerful that he does in each one of us that accepts, Jesus' payment for us. I mean, it's an amazing thing.
It is an amazing
and
thing.
it opens up eternity for us in a way that it's just incredible.
There's such a peace. When you come to accept Christ, there is such a peace that comes with it. And, sometimes we forget about that initial experience of peace coming in and just that awesome feeling of knowing that you're secure. And, then you'll read someone's testimony and they talk about how this overwhelming peace just surrounded them. And, we walk in that and we can walk in that and live in that every day of our lives. And we need to stop and appreciate how nice it is to have that peace, to feel that love, to feel, and to know that God is always there, that you can always talk to God. Recently, somebody told me to pray for them. And I said, you do know God hears your prayers too, and so it's easy to ask somebody else to pray because we have more faith in their prayers than we have in our own. But God hears you when you pray. And I think it's important that we realize that God is not out of reach. He's not out of touch. He is right there and so easy to talk to. And then hearing the voice of God, oh, goodness, I could talk for days about that. That's one of my hot buttons right now, is the way that God speaks to you. But God is very real. And we're going to have to end this day. It seems kind of quick. But tomorrow we're going to get into a little bit of Jason's experience with his father when his father recently passed away. So we're looking forward to having all of you back here tomorrow, again, in the Circle of Friends.
Thanks to generous donations, this program is produced by Circle of Friends Ministries. You can write to us at P.O. Box 345, Berlin, Ohio 44610, or contact us at 330-852-0000. You've found a place to belong.